As you mentioned, my name's Nate Zeleznick. I live here in Huntsville, Utah, a little small town. And growing up, anybody who's familiar with Utah knows that there is a very predominant religion in Utah. It was much more than it is right now. But growing up in this little small town, not being part of that religion, I was highly and heavily and significantly bullied physically
Mhm.
and mentally from the age of 5 until about the age of 16 when I could
Oh,
actually drive
wow.
in my high school. And so, what came about as far as with my spiritual destiny, this really started, was around the age of 12. I began having a lot of suicidal thoughts on a daily, moment by moment basis because I really didn't feel any place was safe for me. I was being
Mhm.
really tortured, and the bullies would sometimes come to my house in the middle of summer to kick my ass. And it was like even if
Wow.
it wasn't a break. And so, around the age of 12, I started having spontaneous out of body projections where I would leave my body, my consciousness would
Okay.
leave my body. Had
Mhm.
one, a beautiful one last night, actually, and it's continued to this day. But it was like my soul was telling me, it's okay, Nate. There's more to what you think your existence is than just
Mhm.
hell that you're going through. And
Right.
of course, when you're a kid, you don't understand that, oh, all things happen for a reason. How is this for me? Oh, this is a way for me to grow. You just look at it as it's happening to me.
Right.
And when I was 12, that started happening for me. And around the age of 16, I started martial arts training because I always wanted to start martial arts training ever since I was a little kid. But the only thing I could do was kick fence posts and hurt my brothers. And that was all. So when I finally could start a martial art training, I started training in an American freestyle karate. But
Okay.
there was no internal aspect of it. There was no meditation. It was a
Right.
straight martial art. And there are not many martial arts schools in the country that have any kind of an energetic or meditational component because
Mm.
that's just the way it is. But
Yeah.
in Asia, different story. I got a little bit older and I was about 23 years old. I would have all these different mystical experiences and out of body projections, remote viewing. And I really got deep into the Monroe Institute training for
Cool.
hemisync. And when I was 23, I had a synchrodestiny happen that changed my life literally from that moment. And that involved watching a blind woman almost die in front of me trying to cross the street with her dog.
Wha
So the day before this happened, though, I had received a VHS tape in the mail that I had ordered that it was out of Black Belt magazine. And this guaranteed me inner power in 2 weeks, or I got my money back. And I was like, yes, instant. I've always wanted that. And of course, the method was complete focus, but the tape, it showed Indonesian martial arts. And I didn't really
Mm.
know where Indonesia was. I knew it was a big country, a lot of islands. I knew where it was, but I didn't know anything about it. But when I saw people who were not breaking boards and bricks, they were breaking stacks of steel and iron and stone, just
Wow.
barely touching it with a smile on their face, not the aggressive and breaking stuff with anger. No, these people were doing it and having a ball. And then it showed some people who could literally see while blindfolded or blind. And I mean,
Wow.
they were doing things like, I don't know, driving cars through traffic in Jakarta, just normal traffic, or military people who could fight bare knuckles, full contact, or shoot targets out of people's hands from 100 feet away.
Wow.
Then it showed blind people. And these blind
Mhm.
people could read printed material off of a piece of paper or off a whiteboard. And
Wow.
I thought it had to be a joke, right? How
Mm.
could anybody do that? I was like, no way. But there was that but out there
Mhm.
because I'd had all these mystical experiences and I knew I was much more than my physical body. So maybe, just maybe, Jedi's are real. And the next day, I watched this blind woman and that happened. And from that point forward, it became an obsession for me to find those people on that videotape, and I did.
Mm.
And I brought them here to America for the very first demonstration of this art, which is called Marpati Puti, which that sounds funny to us because we don't know what it means, but in Indonesian, it means white dove. And
Mhm.
this Javanese, so Central Java, where Jakarta is, most people might be have at least have heard of Jakarta.
Mhm.
These people, for the past 500 years, had created, refined, channeled, and really honed very unique and special form of martial arts, but also energy and chi development that literally
Ooh.
increases the voltage in every one of our 37 trillion cells quickly,
Yeah.
but energy healing. So using
Mm.
itself as the battery, it's not a channeling thing from the quantum or using Reiki. This is us. We are the battery. So we give our energy and we make more. we give that to people as they need it in order for their body to be able to heal. Because
Mhm.
nobody really heals anybody to happen. And then it has this vibrational skill where you can sense energies around you without your eyes. And some people are able to see, other people can hear from a distance. Some people are remote view, other people it's out of body travel, other people intuition that they can trust as much as any of their five senses. And there are other skills as well, but we don't really know what power will unlock for you. The thing is, it's a method. So, Sophia, this is
Okay.
not something where you have to be born in a certain place at a certain
Mhm.
time, certain culture, have certain belief systems, train with a certain guru who will unlock and attune things for you. Or no, these are intrinsic abilities. For instance, the ancient Egyptians, they said we have 360 senses, not five. So
Mm.
what have we forgotten in 5,000 years? And so this is just a way that people can reliably unlock these skills, but we don't know what it's going to be for you or anybody
Right.
else. Kind of like the X-Men, you get exposed to the radiation and maybe you'll teleport or maybe you'll be able to
Mhm.
jump high or maybe fly. Oh, we don't know. Really cool about it though is that even people who were skeptical, cynics I can't do anything with because nothing's right for a cynic. They're
Right.
gonna put it down and their belief structure won't allow them to experience things. But if people are skeptical, I love that because when they have the "oh my god" moment and they start to really unlock
Mhm.
their future human potential, it's gold because literally, just like it changed my life in a single instant, seeing that blind woman,
Mhm.
thousands of students literally changed their entire course of their life because they started to experience things that society, our parents, our friends, our spiritual leaders have either discouraged or just not even known we're there to help us develop. And
Mhm.
this is what that does. And so the Mopati system, extremely powerful. There's absolutely nothing else like it in the world. I don't know how they were able to make it so different than pranayama or
Mm.
Kundalini or Reiki but breathwork wise, it's not Wim Hof, it's not holotropic, it's not Buteyko. It's unique. It's its own thing and it produces results that are also in a category of its own. And
Mm.
so, with that said, about a year and a half ago, I decided I wanted to do more. I wanted to bring more to the world than only the Merpati-Putti method. And so I formed the Integrated Ascension Method, or the I Am. As we know, that is the most powerful sentence that we can start any say in the English.
Mhm.
Well, because anything that comes after that is what you manifest. But it's
Right.
also, I thought it was pretty interesting. It's the name of God is given to Moses on Mount Sinai. I
Mhm.
am. And that really is an important thing because we are all gods and goddesses. We are creative, infinite, unlimited, eternal beings that have the
Right.
ability to create through thought and emotion if properly harnessed. And so
Mhm.
now I combined the Merpati system and this energy work. I don't teach the martial arts anymore. I've moved into the peace and
Mm.
spiritual realm.
Mhm. Mhm.
Now I've combined it with things like vibroacoustic technology where your whole body vibrates at different frequencies as you sit on different things that vibrate. If you can imagine every single one of your cells being at 528 hertz to hertz, the frequency of love, I do that combined
Wow.
modalities as well as brain training. So the Sensei 5-in-1 brain training headset, which is like your own home EEG set without having to have a neuroscience scientist there, without all
Mhm.
the training and the goop on your head. Don't need that. And so it doesn't put you in a brainwave state. It does, but it teaches you how to get there on your own, which is important
Mm.
because so many people use different things as a crutch.
Right.
Can't do it
Right.
themselves. So couple that with things like nutritional fitness, and
Mhm.
also I'm the beacon of ancient wisdom for a company called Arya Organic, which has the finest, most amazing, purely sourced Indian food you will ever find. You can
Hmm.
hold the line, but I actually work there as the beacon of cultural wisdom and ancient technology to bring in other sages, other mentors, other masters of other disciplines from around the world together to form a council so
Mm.
that if people want to improve the energy of their life, not only through food being medicine for yourself,
Mhm.
also, let's say Rome. Rome is a good example because there's the adage that there are many roads to Rome.
Mhm.
Well, there is no one road that everyone can follow. That's why
Right.
there are 50,000 religions or something like that. This gives people an opportunity to choose whatever road they would like to go on and
Mhm.
be supported by someone who is a master in a tradition, not somebody who did a weekend workshop, but somebody who has lived that
Right.
tradition for decades or their whole life. And so
Right.
those are a couple things that I bring to the table with the integrated ascension method that separates it, that there's nothing else like it in the world. And I'm really blessed that I'm bringing this to humanity because it's time for all of
Yeah.
us. Guys. We're all on this ascension path, but a lot of
Yes.
people just don't know how to they look at the gurus and they're like, "But they have to anoint me." No, they don't. You are your own guru.
I love that because, like, when I started this journey, there wasn't a thing. I went through 8 years of body talk sessions on myself, meditations, and lots of spiritual awakenings through taking a vow of peace and past that somatic healing and stuff like that. So I've carved out my own journey, which is beautiful and I'm grateful for it. But the fact that there is a thing that exists on the planet that's like a step by step process to help more people. And I'm not saying that's for everyone, but just the fact that there's a system because the ascension journey is dynamic.
Way to put it.
And to be able to have like there are tools that exist, but to have a system for the left brain in me that feels really good.
Yeah, me too. And that's another thing is that almost everything that we can do, we can actually prove scientifically now. And I've had some of the top neuroscientists and quantum physicists in the world actually do tests on our people as far as energy
Cool.
projection, their brain waves. And both have said, we've never seen anything like this in 20 something years.
Wow.
This is beyond the scope of what we've seen. And so it's nice because I grew up in a very science-minded household. My mom's a
Mhm.
nurse, dad was an EMT and a social worker and work construction, a leader, but neither of them were really spiritual or
Mhm.
religious, and
Right.
I didn't grow up with that. And so for me, it's okay. As fun, I would read my mom's medical textbooks when I was like 5. That was just like, okay, that's what I'm doing. And I was really programmed that
Mhm.
in the Newtonian way in a lot of things. So when I see something, I can observe it and say, okay, that makes sense. It's do it. But then I get a chance to experience it through a method.
Mm.
And then you can't unring that bell, right? And it becomes part of you
Mhm.
unless you go back to sleep again, which,
Right.
yeah. And a method helps people to be able to get back on that horse, back in that saddle, if you will,
Yeah.
they want in a way that I don't have to start all over again. It's no, this is you start from where you're at and you go
Mhm.
vertical from there with this method. The learning curve is steep and it is not easy, but 100%
Right.
of people who've done it and had success agree it is worth it. And
Mm.
it also
Yeah,
doesn't
and
come with
that's
anything else. It's actually an amazing cross trainer. It's like a jetpack for anything else people do. It doesn't actually
mm.
conflict with religions. It doesn't conflict with other healing modalities or energy modalities. It's literally a supercharger on the engine for anything else people do.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so beautiful because as we go on this journey of self-discovery, for me, it's been, okay, I'll sniff. Does this resonate? Does this not? And it's for me, it's been I think for most people, it's been a very personal journey with a lot of quiet time.
Yes.
Um, and I have a whole toolkit, but I've been doing this since 2009. And what I feel in consciousness right now is the ascension process is speeding up. And I had the luxury, and it is a luxury, of spending 15 years unwinding programs in myself and getting to the space where I am in consciousness, knowing that I still have more to uncover. But I had that luxury, and I don't feel like that leisurely route is available to the extent that it was 15 years ago. I think that the shift in consciousness is accelerating.
Absolutely right. It's a lot of people, including myself, call this the convergence because we have all these different energies coming in and the star children coming
Mhm,
in. They're just like they just seem to know stuff
mhm.
from birth. Our
Yeah.
generation, not so many, but the new
Mhm.
ones, the Gen
Yeah.
Star, not the Gen Z, but the Gen Star or Indigo
Right.
children, whatever you might want to call them, they seem to be coming in with more knowledge or less forgetfulness, not more knowledge, because we all have
Right.
all of the
Right.
knowledge in the universe. It's just we made the agreement we're going to forget while we're here so we can enjoy this movie and learn and send information back to
Yep.
source. Makes sense. We came here to
Mhm.
experience and learn through experience, not learn by knowing everything when we
Yeah.
die. The few people that do come
Right.
in with all the knowledge, they're great teachers and sages, but they're on
Mhm.
a very different path than the majority of humanity. They're not here for that
Right.
reason, learn because they've already gone through it how many billions of times or whatever
Right.
to be at that point. I can't speak for all of them, but with my own out of body experiences and my near death experience in 2007, which we can mention there in in a
Yeah.
moment. But the fact that we are more than our physical body and that consciousness is non-local, it's not housed in our body, and basically we're just a bunch of antennas and broadcasting equipment in us. We take
Mhm.
information in, we also broadcast it out at all times with amazing, amazing. It's amazing how it's on autopilot and we don't have to think about all this stuff because there's no way
Mhm.
we possibly could. Real us, the higher, big S self, it's always in
Mhm.
aware all these things in multiple dimensions. And as we start to awaken, it's just going to become a faster process. Just like AI is
Yeah.
going to take everything vertical as far as knowledge and our learning and our ability to produce. That's
Mhm.
happening in the realm of HI or human intelligence as well.
Yeah, I definitely feel that because I know when I astral travel, because I did as a kid and I still do. As a kid, I'd like I could feel myself tethering myself to the bed
Mm,
and then I'd go off. And now I just feel myself going on these strange journeys. And every once in a while, I'll tune in and I'll be like, okay, what was that? And I don't always get the answer because I was doing something while I was sleeping. And then I wonder why I wake up tired. But as part of my mission that I signed up for before I came here to assist in the raising of consciousness on the planet. So for me, that whole experience of while you're sleeping, you're actually awake in another dimension is it's just fascinating. And I wanted to speak a little bit about that first because that ability, it was innate in me. I didn't think anything about it as a kid. And then when I shut it down because I was scared of it, and then the fact that it's come back is really cool because now I can see what it is. But how did you feel when you were having those out of body experiences? Was it helpful for your journey as a teenager? Did you feel more expansive? Did your small self feel the shift
yeah.
when that yeah.
Yeah. So all of that, yes. So when I was about around 12, I don't remember exactly. Oh, I was 12 and 14 days. No, but so when I was at the age of 12, my first experience with this was I was laying down on my back and I was breathing slowly in through my nose, and my body got really heavy. Like
Okay.
yeah, I was being covered with a weighted blanket, like the ones that weigh 50 pounds that
Mhm.
comfort you. I felt myself paralyzed and my body, I
Oh,
couldn't
wow.
move. I was thinking to myself, this is really interesting. And then I started to vibrate, and it was like a tremor, but very fast. And next thing I felt my awareness, it felt like my body expanded outward, huge. And I raised up out of my body and I rolled over and I could see my body laying there. And if I remember correctly, I was hoping that I was dead because at that point in my
Mhm.
life, I didn't I was
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I was like, "Wow, this feels amazing," and I the first time I snapped back into my body, and then I tried to recreate that, and of course, as we know, the more you try, the farther away that yardstick goes, the yard
Mhm.
marker. Then I just went, "F it," and gave up, and I'm like, "I guess it's never gonna happen again," and then it started spontaneously happening
Mhm.
once I was able to actually surrender because I can say,
Mhm.
"Oh, I'm not gonna peek," and then I look it through my fingers, it's like that. I give up.
Right.
I really am attached to it. It doesn't work that way, and so,
Right.
once I was able to really I wouldn't say refine the process because there's always a work in progress there. It would
Yeah.
happen on occasion just at the time when I was having the hardest times in my life, and
Okay.
like I said, my soul was giving me a window to what I really am and what we all really are. Although on a small level, okay? Even
Yeah.
on our higher self, I don't know that it can fathom the enormity of our soul as an infinite being. But that said, our physical body definitely can't. It can start to experience our astral body and start to experience energies outside of us because
Mhm.
everything is vibration, information, and frequency. We know this, right? And
Mhm.
so for me, that was a really important thing to have those experiences because was it formative in my teenage years? Absolutely. It put me on this path of, you can call it ascension, but I like to also refer to it as awakening, or
Mhm.
remembering who I truly am. And
Mhm.
I go unconscious sometimes too and have to bring myself back. That's part of the human condition. We
Yeah.
all will find ourselves having out of body experiences, not the one I'm talking about, though, not astral projection, more along the lines of Thich Nhat Hanh and what he talked about as far as an out-of-body experience when you catch yourself thinking about something like, okay, if you've ever driven someplace and we're like, wow, I'm glad my car knew the way because I don't remember the drive. You
Yep,
have out-of-body experience, meaning that you're
yep,
experiencing something in the past, something in the future, something from a distant location that was not right here, right now in full.
mhm,
That said, we all have our out-of-body experiences. I caught myself doing this stuff earlier today, so no one is immune from it. The
right,
Dalai Lama himself practices on a daily basis, I'm sure, and minute by minute, coming back into
mhm,
presence. And that's
mhm,
part of what we're here to do, to
yeah,
learn how can I be present? How can I
mhm.
choose what I prefer? And how can I learn the lessons of what has transpired to my benefit so that I can make a better choice?
Yeah, it's that whole journey is so fascinating because for me, one of the things that's been a fascinating journey, I'll say, is my relationship with food. And about 12 years ago, 15 years ago, I went through the process of becoming plant-based.
Okay.
And I was plant-based until April. And all of a sudden my body said beef. Okay, beef. All right. So I'm gonna have beef. And I stood at the counter of the local grocery store and I'm like at the meat counter, I'm like, can we help you? And I'm like, yeah. What's
Mm,
wrong? And I'm like, I haven't had beef in 12 years and my body really wants it. And I'm trying to remember what I liked. And since then, I've been able to eat it. Like I'm able to eat beef and fish, but not poultry or
mm,
pork. I don't understand the whole dynamic. So that whole journey of intuitive eating versus what the program like, oh, I went all the way gluten, dairy, sugar-free path and plant-based, which took a lot of effort to like listening to what my body needs to support it. And that's part of the journey of the self, listening to the higher self as an example of how to surrender the small self to the higher non-physical self to help the temple be its highest version of itself.
that's beautiful. Yeah, that's beautiful. I myself have gone plant-based as well for a while. I was vegan, and
Mhm.
that is very difficult. That is very difficult.
Yes.
Genetically, even with my blood type, I am a Tyrannosaurus mate. I just, yep, that's part of it. My body, I've even had genetic tests done,
Oh,
and it was like,
wow.
with the genetic markers, yes, you process meat. You need to have that in your diet. I'm like, okay.
Mhm.
Right, and also plant. I guess I'm keto with carbs, if that if such a thing.
I'm keto with sourdough.
Yeah, carnivore with salad, but yeah, and actually that would be but I think for most people to have that intuitive eating is a really beautiful thing because what it does is it allows you to actually become in tune and in touch with your body instead of numbing out, which a
Mhm.
lot of the additives and things that go into our food, they numb us out anyway. Because there are over 25,000 things that go into processed food in this country
I
that do
know.
not need to be listed on the label, and there are almost no long-term studies on them as far as what they do for endocrine disruption, for reproductive harm, all these different things
Yeah.
that and now they're finding microplastics in most people's guts and even in the tissues of our
I
body,
know.
muscles, microplastics. And so it's all right, what we're gonna see what happens.
Mhm.
But that's one thing that I love doing is helping people strengthen their energy and their body
Mhm.
to the point where they can resist or do better in the face of poisonous air, water,
Yeah.
food, or information. Just go on any news station and see.
Mhm.
There'll always be negativity. And since the CDC says on their website that over 90% of all disease is caused by stress, 90% plus, that means one of the most poisonous things that we are consuming is information because it stresses us out. And if we're not able to then regulate our emotional state and therefore our hormones and the enzymes through our body, and we're it's like walking uphill, skating like ice skating uphill both ways to school 5 miles and
Yeah.
you're naked. You're just
Right.
a really big
Yeah.
disadvantage.
Yeah,
So
I know. I've been an experiment on myself with supplements for 15 years as well. And to realize how my shampoo is from Europe, I I've gone down this massive path of, like, okay, what are all the healthy things I can do to support my environment? It's not just my food, but it's the whole thing because there's so many levels, especially in the United States. Glyphosate is a thing.
oh yeah.
It's a thing, and to find ways to help my body eliminate, mitigate not have that in my system, it's like it's like, how is, like, even the organic food has it, and it's, oh my gosh, it's such a journey to get yourself healthy.
This is true, and I have a interesting, piece of information that you and I'm sure everybody else will like to know. The majority of people assume that if they eat clean food, or if they do the Kanoki type foot pads or the little electrode things in a foot bath, or they take these cleansing supplements, that's the way you cleanse your body. But over 70% of all the toxins in our body are released through our breath. Two-thirds of weight loss is dependent on breath, not what you eat, not what you exercise,
Mhm,
period. We know
mhm.
this medically.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
breath is the key. And this is an interesting thing. A very good friend of mine, a spiritualist this morning, I was talking with him. He was leading us through our meditation. And I've been saying for a long time that every human being comes in with an inhale and leaves with an exhale.
Mhm.
And he's had an interesting way to phrase this. He's like, when you're born and when you die, your breath is the indicator of whether you're alive or not by any medical
Mhm.
professional. A baby's cry indicates that it's breathing. And if they don't have equipment there to tell that a heart has stopped, they'll check your heart, but then a doctor will put their finger or somebody will put their finger under your
Mhm.
nose and check and see if you're breathing. And if
Mhm.
you're not, that's an indication of death
Yeah.
of the body. And that's why it's so important that in between that whole crying of the first and exhaling and having it be our last, we
Mhm.
breathe 20 to 29,000 times a day, and the
Mm.
majority of people on this planet have never paused to consider doing it on purpose. And I love the fact that breath work and meditation has really started to catch fire, and breath work is the fastest growing holistic modality in the world. Thanks, Wim Hof. He really helped popularize it.
Yeah.
Going back to pranayama, going back to Kriya Yoga, back to Kundalini Yoga, back to different mantras, even in, say, the Catholic traditions through the Gregorian monks, there are so many different breath work things that help us strengthen the vital force, the chi,
Yeah.
the key, the energy makes us be.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that's so neat is there are a lot of roads to Rome in that way as well. And this way, it allows people to, I'll put it this way. If you want to become truly present in this moment, not thinking about the past, not worrying about the future, breathe slowly in through your nose fully, out through your mouth fully. Focus on your breath, and you will not be able to focus on the negative,
Right.
either direction, past or future,
Yeah.
because you're too busy enjoying this present moment now. And for me, those have been some of the most profound times in my
Mm.
life. Sophia is in the absolute, I'll call it a shitstorm. We've all been in it. It's the chaos. You're in
Mhm.
Hurricane Katrina of life. And then
Mhm.
to go and become the eye, the calm eye in that storm, it requires literally seconds to do it, to at
Mhm.
least start the process and
Mhm.
remember to do this. That
Yeah.
cleansing, like you were mentioning, it's gotta start with the breath because over
Yeah.
70% all the cleansing done for toxins, heavy metals, everything happens with your breath. The fact that I read this study a little while ago that over 90% of all the humans on the planet only use about 15% of their lung capacity. 15%. So maybe everybody out there listening right now is in that top 10% that uses, say, 20. But the thing about this is that the number one factor in longevity has been shown in huge studies done over decades with tens of thousands of people. The number one factor in living a long life is lung capacity. But unfortunately, almost none of the breathwork modalities out there increase your lung capacity.
Mm.
Here's the thing why. Most are in the hyperventilation or superventilation. You're breathing
Mhm.
fast. You're not
Right.
breathing fully, but the indication of lung capacity, the development of it has to do with how much you can exhale. So if you
That
think about
totally makes sense.
yeah,
Totally
and
makes sense.
most people have never actually breathed all the way out in their whole life. So when I lead people through an exercise, even for a few minutes, like 3 or 4 minutes, I've had people and had them time their breath, how long they could hold their breath at the start,
Mhm.
and then have it be between 2x and 5x as long after
Wow.
minutes of proper breathing.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, so I'm like,
That's
"Well,
beautiful.
that's maybe a few more hours of your life that you get. Yay."
No, I totally get that. Like, when I breathe, when I'm conscious about breathing, I feel my diaphragm expand and my lungs contract, and because I want to engage my diaphragm with it. And I love feeling the interconnectivity of it all.
Yeah. It starts with breath. Everything
Mhm.
starts with our breath. And
Yeah.
there's the people who are familiar with, say, wilderness survival or just even
Mhm.
survival at all. It's called the rule of three, the law of threes. So you can survive roughly about 3 weeks without food, the average person, about 3 days without water, but only about 3 minutes without air for your
Mhm.
body to then shut down and you are in such distress that you're probably going to not continue on. So
Wow.
the thing is there's 3 minutes obviously without a heartbeat as well, but most people are not able to consciously control their heartbeat. There have been some yogis able to do that,
Mm.
but if you think about this, the breath is the only autonomic nervous system process that is fully under control from the moment you came onto the planet. Ask
Mhm.
any mom who has ever given birth to a baby underwater. They know how to
Yeah.
hold their breath, bang, before they
Right.
as soon as they come out, before they're actually out of the birth canal, they're holding their breath. They know what's up.
Amazing.
So the thing is it's a matter of conscious awareness.
Mhm.
And now, as Dr. Joe Dispenza, people who are familiar with him, he's got an interesting saying that in the age of information, ignorance is a choice. It's powerful. It's like,
Ooh, I got chills on that.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm just a huge intaker of information. I'm trying to fill this thing up. You never can, but feels like it's leaking out my ears.
Mhm.
I really think that's a beautiful thing for all humans. And
Yeah.
I'm very hopeful that people will continue to increase their education and become smarter in the face of AI, which instead of
Mhm.
having to do some research for yourself, if you just tell ChatGPT, I want you to create this, and it does all this stuff at a genius level, it will negate. We're all to the place
Right.
where some of the younger people don't even know how to make a sentence. They don't even know how to spell a word. It's, well, OMG, everything's
Right.
abbreviated, and we're dumbing ourselves down. So hopefully, the people who are still on that ascension path will
Mhm.
still want to pick up something. I'll just call this like a book, a real book,
Yeah.
like, and it's not battery powered, and be able to
Right.
continue to learn. We'll see.
Mhm.
We'll see. But no matter what happens,
I have books all the time. I love reading, because I love that tangibility of it. And you mentioned AI. I am very ambivalent about it because the whole experience of being human, the divine human that we are, is what we're here is to create. And when we take that away, and it's something as simple as for me, I love making sourdough bread. There's something really soulful about not so much eating it because I know it's not the best thing for it's so good though. But the actual process of mixing it and creating something out of ingredients into something that's more than me, that's the connection with the divine that we have, of that space of the inspiration coming through into form. And the the ambivalence I see with the AI is it takes away that agency.
yes, and in many ways, we'll find out exactly how this plays out.
Mhm.
We don't know yet. It could
Right.
be the thing that allows people to stop trading time for money and live their purpose.
Mm.
It could be something where it makes us all absolutely mentally, challenged, or it could be Cyberdyne and Skynet, and they destroy us all, or The Matrix, which was a great documentary, by the way. The thing is we don't know, but, I think
Right.
that it's really going to be important to see how the safeguards are put up, and the thing is, like I said, it will never be able to compete with HI, our human intelligence,
Mhm.
because no matter what, no matter how smart AI gets to be, it will never be infinite, unlimited, and eternal, which we are. And hopefully, we can use it in a smart way, those of us who are on that path, to actually accelerate our ability to be that infinite, unlimited, eternal being. And I say that this way, that if you're able to work 10 hours a week and get 40 hours a week done, and you're a spiritual person who is on this path of ascension, you have 30 more hours a week that you can actually be present with your family. You can actually work on your spiritual dynamics. You can actually do these things
Right.
with less stress, and that's going to help
Mhm.
all ships rise with that tide. So
Right.
that's my vision of it. That's how I intend on planning on using it. And if it becomes the Age of Ultron kind of thing where it destroys us all, we're not going to have to worry about it anyway.
But
So,
that brings up the point, like, how are we where do we place our focus? Because wherever we tune in, those little quarks stop, and that's the focus, and that's what becomes the form.
yes.
It's a It's that conscious awareness of tuning into what I want to bring into the world, and the visions I have are pretty magical and overwhelming for me to do by myself, but they're very magical because I see what our potentiality is, and that's what I focus on, and anything else, like the news or what's happening in blah blah, I don't care, because if it's not for my highest unfolding, why does it matter?
Preach. We are all on the same wavelength. It's true.
Yeah,
It's very true. And as we know, sex sells, violence sells, controversy sells. So that's what we're fed.
yeah,
And that's because that gets ratings, that earns more money for the shareholders, blah, 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 all that, those things. But it's still all just mask over the real. And so I ask myself on and off on a daily basis, okay, what's real about this?
mhm.
That's what's my perception or my judgment. Of course, I still have perception, but I still have
Right,
judgment.
right, right.
Do my best to catch myself on those things as well when I'm
Yeah,
conscious of them. But I ask, what is real? And then
mhm,
how is this for me? And just by
mhm,
asking those questions, we have this amazing brain connected to everything that is a question answering machine. It's
mhm,
also good at following directions and staying inside a very little box if that's what we tell it to do. But
mhm.
if we ask those questions, how is this for me? What is there to learn from this? What is a better choice that I can make next time? All these things, and then just being quiet. It's amazing what answers come.
Oh, yeah. One of my coping mechanisms as a kid was looking into the future. And now, if I do it at all, I get, "What do you need in this moment?" I'm like, like this, like, "All right, that's fine. I'll be present."
Yes.
Because I'm catching myself in that tendency, and it's this little game at this point because, like, I'll get that, but it's more in play because it's like, "Oh, I caught it faster. I caught it faster." And so now it's just, okay, what do you need in this moment? What is happening now? And so planning with me, I'll put it on my calendar. I will not know what I'm doing
Yeah.
until I open the calendar for that day because I don't want to project that far ahead. My inner guidance is, no, you're fabulous at future casting. You will really get that very well. How about presence?
And so to that point, there's an amazing book by a great author named Dan Millman called The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. It's New York Times bestseller. And it says right on the front, a book that changes lives. It absolutely is. I've read that book at least 2 dozen times in my life. And in there, the wise sage figure, he poses a question to Dan Millman when he was in college and he was learning from this individual. He asked him, "What time is it?" And he looks at his watch. It's 3:48 Mountain Time. 3:48. He's, "What time is it? What time is it? What time is it?" The time is always now. And in there, "Where are you?" And he's, "I'm in California." "Where's California?" "It's North America." "Where's North America?" "It's on Earth." "Where's Earth?" "Earth is in the Milky Way, or is in the solar system with the sun." "Okay, where's that?" "It's in the Milky Way." "Where's that?" "In the universe." "Okay." But when it comes down to it, where are you? The answer is always here. So that's the way that I encourage everybody out there to read that book. It's an amazing,
Yeah.
fun book to read. But also, if you want to bring yourself back into present awareness, it's very simple. Ask yourself, what time is it? Where am I?
Mm.
And breathe fully, all the way in and all the way fully empty, all the way fully into you're expanded completely and all the way empty. This is a very basic exercise. What time is it? Where am I? If you ask yourself those questions, you cannot help but be here and now.
Yep.
Nice little life hack there.
That's beautiful. It's beautiful because that tendency to have a to-do list as an example. It's amazing how if you give yourself that sleepy state, how much that can control you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And as Joe Dispenza and Bruce Lipton, Greg Braden, a lot of the spiritual, I guess you'd say the juggernauts of the spiritual realm in
Mhm.
the neuroscience tells us that by the age of 30, about 95% of all of our actions throughout any given day were unconscious. And we're actually
Yeah.
just putting out a pre-programmed set of instructions.
Mhm.
And so what time is it? Where are you? Helps you go from
Yeah.
95% to 94%. Do that enough, there's no one that is at 0%. Whether it's Gandhi, Mother Teresa, the most enlightened
Mhm.
sages, they were still. have times where they're just mindlessly thinking or just mindlessly drifting. And
Mhm.
it's how many times, how often can we bring ourselves back into present conscious awareness?
Mhm.
It's a process. It's not I learned this
Right.
one week and all of a sudden not like that. We're not to have a liquid shot of all my problems are gone, all my awareness that if you can get that, like that pill in the movie Limitless with Bradley
Mhm.
Cooper,
Mhm.
take that and activate your whole brain.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there are great
Yeah.
notebooks out there that help us think faster, but it doesn't do anything to help us actually be conscious. That's something that it requires conscious awareness to do.
Mm. And because you're bringing that in, I had this piece of awareness because I work with animals. So when we don't have awareness about our energies, and I had this happen with a client, our energies can affect our animals.
Oh, of course.
And so this one of my clients was doing ghost tours and then clean himself. Dog got cancer. I was like, just sage yourself before you get back in because you brought a whole bunch of energies in because you weren't clearing yourself. You didn't bring your protection in before you went in. And I get it because we're all on different levels of awareness, but like having your own protection and your sovereignty as a starting point and then cleaning yourself off not just for your sake, but for your animal's sake.
Mhm.
It's just different levels of awareness. And I think as we get more present with ourselves, we bring that in more and more. I bless my water before I drink it because I want to change the frequency of it.
Amen. And to that point, as far as shielding, that's actually something I'd like to give to all of the people watching or listening to this right now is
Thank you.
a gift
Thank you.
of this is an energetic shielding exercise, very unique that sometimes there are lots of great shielding exercises out there, but how many of them can you actually use while you step out of an elevator into chaos and do it bang as you cross through the elevators and it's instant?
Mm,
That's what this does. And
that's
so
awesome.
when people go to my website, which I'll tell you a little bit about that in a moment, but this energy shielding exercise and also my book also details that it's in writing. It has helped so many of my students and just people all over the world. It's actually very similar to what the Monroe Institute teaches that I learned back when I was a teenager. And it's just amazing. And the thing is that a lot of us in our unconsciousness don't pay attention to what we're actually feeling or we're somatically numb
Mhm.
that we don't know if something is our emotion or emotion picked up by something else, if it's a chemical imbalance or if this is like a divine warning. And with this class, people will have a very interesting breath work and presence exercise, as well as this shielding exercise that helps us really, and for a lot of people, helps them determine what is what.
That is
And
so helpful because having that awareness of what is my energy and what is somebody else's, I can go out. I used to do research. Every time I went into a museum, I would be exhausted within 5 minutes. The last time I did a research project, I got the intuitive guidance that I needed because I didn't have a protection of my own. I created a spray of cedar and sage and I sprayed myself before walked into the museum to do research. The difference, like I was when I before I did it, I was yawning within 2 minutes of getting there and I was like, I need to take a nap and I didn't understand why. After I did the spray, I could do the research project.
everybody thought you smelled great, I'm sure.
Yep. Yep. It was pretty
Yeah.
good. Western cedar is the best.
Stage, just yeah, both of those things, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So
It's important. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
no, just having those tools and the awareness is so important.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right, and like you said, like, the one word most operative and most important in that is awareness,
Mm,
because you can't fix what you don't know is wrong, and
mhm.
that's a really important thing that what I teach is not for the people granted, this is a fast track. Oh, it is. I've never seen anything like it before, but it is not for the people who want the easy path. There
Right.
is no easy path. You do not here to have it be easy as soon as you
Mhm.
start to recognize that as infinite, unlimited, eternal being, you came here to have experience. It's ongoing. You can't shut it off. Sometimes things are not what you prefer, and you have the opportunity to change that to what you do. Every single thing is for us, though, no matter what,
Mhm.
whether it's cancer, whether you were a Jew getting murdered by the Nazis, or you were the Nazi doing the murdering, or you were the liberating force from going over to we all have chosen
Yeah.
these to have experience. And then
Yeah.
as the creators that we are, we get the opportunity to choose, how can I make
Mhm.
this better? Or, and I say this with utmost compassion for those people going through into a terminal illness. Healing does not always mean curing. Just for people to let that sink in, healing does
Yeah.
not always mean curing. So that's a very important thing for us to understand.
Yeah.
None of us are getting out of here alive. We all have the exit or the transition. Actually, not an exit. I just call it a change of address.
Mhm.
That's really what it is.
Yeah.
The thing is so many people get to be, let's say, 75 years old, and what they did is they didn't actually live 75 years. They just lived the same day for 75 years over and over. It's Groundhog
Yep.
Day.
Yeah.
And so to break that pattern and become conscious, life gets to be a whole lot more magical. So we know this.
Mhm.
And so I just wish everybody out there all the magic and all the love and the greatest now
Yeah.
that they can.
All right. Since we both have time limits, I'm going to ask you one more question, and that is how can people find you?
Okay. My website is easy to remember. It's very easy to remember because it's something that we all are. My website is I am pure
Mm.
dot energy. So I am pure energy. Not .com, .energy. And so
I
I
love.
am will take people right to my homepage. They can get that free class. They can start looking at my digital products where you can learn this really sacred, ancient, beautiful art in your own home. And then I also do group training for corporations. And then also for those people who are really called, I do elite one-on-one private training for professional athletes, for CEOs, for influencers, for the people that really want to level up their life in 5 days or less.
Oh, wow.
Personal instruction from me, and I bring in all the biohacking and the new energy tech, nutrition for people who are interested in stem cells. My a good friend of mine, he was just no nominated for the Nobel Prize in Medicine for his revolutionary stem cell treatments, and I can bring that in as well. So the people who are really serious about their improvement that way and want to do it quickly and have resources that they can use for life, I am pure dot energy.
Thank you so much for
My pleasure.
sharing this time with me, for your work in the world, and for your beingness. I am so grateful to know I'm on the planet with you.